Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. So, my friends at yarnspirations.com zoomed out, and yes, my desk is a mess, just like my creative self. And there's a brand new product in town, and when I flip it up, it's Bernat All-in-One Blanket Granny Square Yarn. So you'll see on the package the granny square that comes out of this ball. Each one of these balls can produce 4 granny squares that are 10 inches by 10 inches. And there are 6 different colors at the time of launch of this product. And so you will see all the different color combinations. And I'm also going to show you one that's actually done. I've actually done one whole ball so far. In today's video, I'm not only going to show you how to do this particular product as you get your transitions to go from one color to another. So if I just frog this out, meaning to rip it, you can see that it's been transitioned just like this, and I'll talk about that as well. And if you want the pattern, it's actually on the inside of the ball band label, so you can just flip it and see it. But if you can't read that, just come on over to the link in the video description, and I have a printout for you there as well. Here are one of the squares completely done. So you'll see that it would have transitioned approximately right around here in order to make this happen. So the transition, you will see a little bit of a peekaboo on the transition corner, but nothing that would be a true deal breaker. And how you control that transition is through your hands in the tension control when you're going your way around. I will tell you though that this yarn does require some practice if you are really truly wanting to hit that transition. At the very end of the project, once you get your final color, you can just sit back and relax and just crochet the way that you normally would, and you will have this yarn left over so that you can use that to sew it to a neighbor. They are recommending an 8mm size L crochet hook in order to play with this yarn. And let's see what else I got for you. So the yarn, when it changes color, is tacked together like this. The technology is not out yet on Bernat Blanket and being able to change colors in a strategic manner for this kind of concept. So I forget the technical word for this, but it's securely tacked to each other. Okay, and so you have a transition here of 2 inches that will hide within inside the stitch work of here. So when you mosey on your way through, you're going to want to keep an eye on that, because you're going to want to, when you come around, look for that, and I'll have some tips when we get there as well. So another advantage before I leave you and jump to the next part is that when they tack it like this is a measured distance. So it's not a guesswork on, they just cut it and just secure it to each other. So it gives you confidence that the yarn that they have provided to you within each section is going to be the right idea. So when you get to the end of the very last color, you're going to notice is that this is the color of a new cycle happening. This is the tacking point, so I just happen to cut it here, and then I cut right here so that I have a new fresh one to go, because everything is strategically measured. When I'm crocheting with this, I prefer not to crochet in the dark, meaning like if you fly in the dark and there's no lights, then how do you know where to go? So when I'm crocheting with this, what I'll do is that I'll pull out a chunk of this so that I can see where the next transition is going to happen, so that I can pay attention to that to give me an idea if I need to loosen up or tighten up when I'm getting close to this transition. So as I finish off one color, I just pull out another chunk of that same color or of the same ball, and I look for the next transition that will happen, which will be right here. So some of the colored transitions between each other could be really subtle like this, or they can be really substantial as far as like a color breakdown like so. So they call this a fading effect, where it's fading from one to another, and this is what you're seeing within the transition. On the ball band, you're going to see this diagram and also written instructions. So when we go to start with this particular one, is that we start with a chaining of 4, and then we chain 6, and then we rotate around. So the goal is every time we come back around, we're going to have that transition hit. And so again, this yarn does need some practice. So once you get that into your head on how you're going to flow with this yarn, everything should work out pretty okay. So let's just dive on in. Let's see how we're going to do this yarn today, and the trick is in the starting point of this yarn. So let's begin. Our first slip knot from the edge of the very starting piece, when you pull it out of the yarn ball, has to be 4 inches away. So we see 4 here, so the slip knot needs to be right here. So when you create that first slip knot, and you may have to just practice a few times, is that you got to make sure that that's exactly 4 inches away. And when I say exactly, just get it pretty close. So let's just see if that was close. Okay, so I have been practicing with this yarn, and I would say this is close enough to be 4 inches. So if you start and it's only 2, or if it's even longer, you will have a problem. So make sure it's 4 inches, nice and easy. So my first step is to pull out the yarn so I can see the transition to the second color that's available after this. Keep it within your eye view so when you're looking at it, you can see it coming to your hands. So you're going to chain 4 to begin. So just crochet it like you normally do just to see how you're going to work this out, and then we'll figure it out from there. So we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to slip stitch to the beginning, just like here, and we're going to yarn over and pull through, and that's your beginning chain. And you're going to wrap the remaining of the 4 inches around the center of the ring to hide it into position so you don't have to sew that later. So if this is your first time with the yarn, just crochet like you normally do to see how you're going to work with this yarn. So you need to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the 6 chains here is considered 1 double crochet and a chain 3 space. So into the center of the ring, put 3 double crochet going right up over top of that straggler to hold it into position. So this is my second day of playing with this yarn, so I was practicing with it yesterday. So I'm going to see where my tension is today. So your tension changes based on your mood swings and your lifestyle and etc. every day. So now you're going to turn a corner. The corners will always be chain 3. And then I'm going to put 3 more double crochet into the center of this ring. And then chain 3 to turn. And I'm keeping an eye on this. And I'm going to put 3 more double crochet in. If it wasn't on a desk, it'd be a little bit easier for me, just so you know. So I got 3, so I still got to turn a corner, and I still have to put 2 double crochet in, and I got to do it all with the remaining strand that's left before I hit transition. So I'm going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, and in the center here, you're going to put in 2 double crochet only. Look at that. And the transition is right here. So 2 double crochet, and then I'm going to slip stitch it to the 3rd chain up. Now, because I've been practicing, this was not happening when I first tried it for the first time. So I'm going to pull through, and the transition has happened. And I need to start row number 2 or round number 2 using this new color. The transition is right here. So before I move on, let's manipulate this and show you what it looks like if it doesn't hit and what you need to do. Because I've been practicing, I'm actually hitting it right where I should be. So let me just frog out and let me just redo half of the square to show you an idea. So I'm just coming back around and I'm crocheting tighter than I normally would to prove a point. So I'm ready for the ending of this, but I slip stitch and realize that I still have yarn of the same color left over, so therefore the transition will not hit. And this means that I would have been too tight with my stitches, so therefore I would have to relax my stitches in order to get it to work. But because I've been practicing, I've been doing it pretty good. Now, if you're hitting the transition way too early, so let me just frog back out and show you what that would look like as well. So I'm coming back around and I'm crocheting looser than I normally would to prove a point. So I'm coming to the last side here. And so if your transition is happening way too early, it means that your stitches are too loose. So the transition has already happened and I'm still not right back at the very beginning. So what this means is that I have been too loose. So therefore I would have to tighten up to prevent this from happening. So the key for you is to make sure that your tension is good and the transition hits exactly where it's supposed to. So I'm fixing my work. The transition is right here and I'm pulling it through and through. It's the best position to be in that transition. So when you start then round number 2, you're just going to slip stitch to the next section right here, and this color will already be in play. Let's begin round 2. So round 2, you're going to start off by chaining 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And use the lesson that you just learned in round number 1 to regulate your tension. So you're going to put in 3 double crochet into that same corner. Okay, I'm just going to leave this closer to my lap. Okay, and then we're going to jump to this corner. So we don't chain at all. We just immediately just put 3 double crochet into the next space or the corner. Okay, in this case it was a corner. So you'll chain 3 to turn, and then 3 double crochet. Make sure you don't chain at all. You just go right to your next corner, 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. So you're probably thinking to yourself, why didn't you clean your desk off before you did this? Because I just want to show you that this is not an overly doctored video. It's just me at home with you, just showing you how this yarn works. And because it's my reality. So we're going to come to your next corner, and it'll be 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. So I keep looking down to see where that transition is, so I have an idea. So I have orientation, so I still have all of this coloring left before it changes over. So I'm just gonna do it as I normally am. I'm gonna have confidence in myself and see where it lands. So I still have all of that. Okay, so we still have 2 double crochet to do and then a slip stitch. So let's just see where we're gonna land. It feels like it's a lot of yarn in the distance, but because it's Bernat blanket, the yardage gets used up pretty quickly, as you know. Okay, and look at that. Transition happened right where it should. It does pay to practice with this thing. And then all I'm just going to do is just slip stitch over. See, and that's pretty much hidden as good as you're gonna get, and then you slip stitch and ready for the next color. So we're gonna move on to round number 3, and when you're gonna notice the corners going in, see how it kind of covers over the first part? Some of that will be covered over, so you don't need to worry about that. Let's move on to round number 3. Okay, round number 3, I've got the next chunk pulled out, and I can see the transition for when it hits, and I just gonna start and immediately chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the same corner, 3 double crochets, what you already know. Okay, you don't chain at all. You go to your next space. It's a regular granny square, so you go to your next space and just put 3 double crochet in. Okay, and then your corners are going to hit again. So then you got 3 double crochet. I just put it back to my lap. And then chain 3 and 3 double crochet. So I think the worst thing you could do with this yarn is panic that you're not going to hit it. Sometimes you got to trust yourself. Okay, then you go to the space. And so if you're not hitting transition, the worst thing you can do for yourself is to lose your temper or your patience or go psycho because it makes it worse for you next time, because then your expectations of hitting it get harder and harder because your brain is panicking. So you just got to keep calm and crochet on, as they would say. So you got your corners, chain 3. So I'm using the regulation of how it feels in my hand on how much yarn is going into this thing. So I'm kind of paying attention, and I did 4 granny squares yesterday. So I have an idea on how this is supposed to feel in my hands, like as far as the tension itself and the rubbing of my fingers. It doesn't hurt, it's just the way it is. So you got your corner coming. So this is your final corner. So 3 double crochet. Okay, transition is still a little bit away, which is good. If it was too close, I'd be flipping out and going psycho like I told you not to do. And so then we'll finish this corner. Okay, so we still have 1 space to fill yet. We still have all of this yarn before transition, so we're good. Okay, and then we jump to your final one. Here is transition right here. So I still have to put in 2 double crochet into the spot. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna trust myself. Oh my God, I hit it again for the 3rd time in a row. It does pay to practice. So now I hit the transition, I pull through, and then I slip stitch and pull through, and then go to your next one, pull through. So this will get hidden, as I mentioned. See how that got hidden before? So it'll get hidden again, and we're moving on to round number 3. I'm actually smiling beyond the camera because I just cannot believe that the practice paid off. And let's begin number 4. Okay, number 4, I'm gonna go to the ball and pull out that until I see the next transition happening. And I'm just gonna set it on my lap. So I still have 1 more color. Once you get to the final color, you don't have to worry about much. Okay, so let's begin number 4. Chain 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to put in 3 double crochet. I am so excited, you have no idea. The first couple of squares I tried was really tough, but then once I understood what I'm looking for, it's great. So then the next space was 3 double crochet, and then the next space after that, because it's not a corner, is another 3 double crochet. You know, and the fact is that I took a break from after did the 4th. So the first 2 were kind of rough for me, trying to understand the yarn, but then the other 2 were easier. And then this morning, because I think it's day number 2, practicing with you yesterday, I'm not as stressed, and I think that's why it's working. So it's a corner, so you put your 3 double crochet in. Okay, so then you fill in your spaces. Okay. How are you making out? Please leave me a comment in this video on how you're making out today. So the goal of this product here is just so that you can sit back, relax. Once you understand the tension of this yarn, you don't have any tails to weave in every time there's a color change. And that's the biggest convenience of this yarn. That's why they've developed it. And also granny squares are hot and trend right now as well. So I'm just crocheting as I normally would. And just continuing to fill in the spaces or the corners. So my goal for this video, and I don't want to speak too early, but I don't want to have any splices to make it look like I'm tricking you in any way. I want to show you that it does work. So coming into the corner, you see videos on products and stuff where they splice, and then you wonder if it was actually real. Okay, so I still have a way to go before I hit the transition, and I still have a corner, so chain 3, 3 double crochet, far. Go right to your next space, put in the 3 double crochet, and then we'll take a quick look. Still lots. I still have another space to do. Okay, and then I still have this yarn left, and I still have to do 2 more double crochet. Let's see where we land. Okay, and the transition is a little too far from here, just by just a smidge. So because I don't want to splice this video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to right about here. So I'm going to just pull out to right about here, and I want to make the difference up by just being a little bit looser. Don't tell anybody, but you're just gonna just be a little bit more casual, pull a little bit more yarn than you normally would, and what you're doing is you're using up more millimeters per stitch, and see where we end up. So now I'm coming into my corner. And I almost got it there. So if that bothers you, then just go a little bit further back. I'm gonna go here, just be a little bit more relaxed. So my attitude and my environment and everything has a lot to do with this yarn. So because I was probably getting too cocky, maybe I was just whistling Dixie a little bit too early. So I went back, and look at that, got it. So you see, I just had to go back a little bit because to make up for that, so the transition hits exactly where it's supposed to. Okay. So if your transition is way too into the, like if the transition hit and it was right here, it means you're being too tight. And in my case, because I was getting here and it was still over here, I just want to loosen up my stitches. And you really can't tell that I loosened up right in the last section. Let's move on to your 5th and final round. And this is when you can sit back and whistle all you want. So round number 5, you're just going to get yourself to a corner. And I told you that the final color has enough yarn to go all the way around and also to be able to sew it to your neighbor or to do a flat stitch join. Therefore, you can just sit back and just crochet like you normally would. So you can chain 6 and then 3 double crochet in. Okay. And then you just jump to your spaces. So you're just gonna go around on the final round. You don't need to worry about if you're too tight or too loose. Just crochet like you normally do it and just relax in that final round. So really you only have the first 4 rounds that you're paying attention to hit that transition, and the final round, you're just sitting here just being happy and stuff. So what are you thinking so far? Leave me a comment in this video, and I think there's going to be a lot of successful people with this particular yarn once they understand the tension and how to make it work for them. So I was really quite surprised. I told you that I practiced yesterday. I got a hold of Sarah from Repeat Crafter Me, and so she goes, I'm just going to whip up a quick sample, and she had it done so quickly. I said, how did you do that so quickly? And she goes, you just got to practice. So that's, I would almost estimate this yarn as being practice yarn. Just practice first a few times and then it should come to you. The great thing about my contract with Yarnspirations as being a teacher is that I'm allowed to have my own opinion and allowed to express it the way that I want to in order to communicate to you. So for me to sit here and say, oh, this yarn is so perfect and it works every time without showing you how to fix things would be totally irresponsible for me as a person, I think. Because my mom would show me mistakes and stuff like that and how to fix stuff if it's happening. And so because I'm not worried about the distance of the yarn for the yardage for the final round, I can crochet as fast or as slow as I want to. So I just back up my regular speed. And so once you get more and more practice, you'll be able to do the same thing. So the wonderful thing about this, as I mentioned, is that these make a 10-inch square. And so because of that, it covers a lot of distance really quite easily. So you think about 4 squares across is like 40 inches. And so 5 balls would be doing like 40 by 50 inches. So it'd be relatively easy to be able to do that. And you can mix and match your colors and etc. So I come right to the end and put my 2 double crochet in, and then I'm going to just slip stitch it. To the 3rd chain up, and good to go. So this is where I would end the yarn. So I would technically, if it were me and I were you, just slip stitch it right to the corner to get that yarn right to the corner, and then you were just going to take the remaining of that color out of the ball, and this is the transition to the next color. So when you're moving on to the next yarn or the next square, cut it exactly where that transition stops. So, and then your 4 inches begins right here to restart another square, and then I would safely cut that piece out too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a second video, and I'm going to show you how these squares join together using the remaining of the yarn that's left over. So play with the colors, see what you have. The colors are really quite interesting on the yarn ball. This one really attracts me the most. Let's see what color it is. It's called Throwback, so it's probably a retro kind of grade idea. But anyway, this color that we've been playing with on camera today has been called Seaside Shine, and you'll get 4 granny squares out of 1 ball, and it's a nice 10-inch span in order to make that happen. Let's move on to your next video on how to join these things together.